Hey everyone, and welcome to the new player guide for Cross Duel. In this video, we're going to be going over all the new things that you're going to see when you first boot up Cross Duel and what are the best choices to pick, or what are at least the recommended choices to pick. We're also going to be going over all the different aspects of Cross Duel, tag duels, raid duels, card shop, etc. and just discuss what are the best choices, most recommended choices, or even just optimized choices for you to pick in your Cross Duel journey. One of the first things Cross Duel is going to ask you to pick is what is your ace monster. This is basically you getting to choose a free ultra rare monster. And why does this matter? Well, your ace monster is always going to be in your starting hand. Really, your ace monster is kind of what you want to build a deck around, but that may not necessarily be why you want to choose a certain monster as your ace monster. So realistically, this choice is going to be up to you. Do you want to choose a monster that you will eventually get to build a deck around, or do you want to choose one that's kind of good at everything? What I would personally recommend is choosing an ace monster that can really fit into almost any deck, that's going to be good in almost any deck. So the choice here is definitely not Exodia. I should briefly get into the skill slots that monsters have here. Once you get multiple copies of a monster, you can unlock extra skill slots that they can use. However, only your ace monster can use free, up to the first 3 skill slots. Everything else can only use 1. But as this is your first pick, really we're looking for an ace monster that doesn't need additional skills for it to be good. We just want its one skill ideally to be good, to be something which is going to help you in no matter what deck you're going to choose. To that effect, I think Blue Eyes is actually one of the best choices. It has, when summoned, select and destroy 1 monster. It's just generally very good no matter the situation you're in. You can use it offensively, you can use it defensively. It fits in almost any deck you're going to play. Another good choice is Red Dragon's Archfiend. It has the ability of, at the end of the battle phase, destroy all defense position monsters. Now, the downside is this is at the end of the battle phase, but it can still be very good for players who are defending up, and it has very useful skills like Pierce and Intimidate, and even just immunity to destruction effects. It's got a variety of good skills, Red Dragon Archfiend. Now, those would be my my top picks. Other good choices, I'll go into 2 other good choices now. One is Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon. So when this card is summoned using the Pendulum Scale, all of your monsters gain 800 attack and defense, and immunity to destruction effects. Now, the Pendulum Scales are like the monster skills you see here. A lot of them are on just normal cards, like rare cards that you are bound to pick up very early on in the game. For example, Time Gazer the Magician has one, Zani Zebra has one, as you can see here. There are a lot of low rarity monsters that have these pendulum zones on them. So whilst maybe at the beginning you're not going to be able to summon it with this effect, very, very quickly you are going to be able to do that. It's not necessarily one that you have to, build a whole deck around, but one that you can just put in a couple of cards that are very easy to obtain, and you'll be able to summon it and get its effect. Another one to that effect is Firewall Dragon, which has the ability of when summoned, it gains the following effects, depending on the number of monsters with link arrows or number of link monsters that are on your field or in your graveyard. So this is a link 4, however, the link arrows card that it mentions, Link Arrow's effect that it mentions here, is something that you can put on your monsters with relative ease. For example, Ram Collider here has a Link Arrow. All you need to do, it's very early on the chain, all you need to do is get to it, put it on it, and that counts as 2 sacrifices. Or even for Firewall Dragon, or even counts in the graveyard towards its effect. So Firewall Dragon is another, I think, really good card that you can make use of its effect. It has a very good effect, and you can make use of it with, just very little input into the game. Like within your first day or 2 of playing, you will be basically getting it out with its effect. So there's those 2. Now, if you are thinking more long term and you don't necessarily mind about your monster having a bad effect at the beginning, then perhaps the best monster to go to is Elemental Hero Neos. So this card has the effect of when it's destroyed in battle, it comes back to your hand, and it gets Speedy Summon and Super Speed. Now, Super Speed and Speedy Summon by themselves are not going to be that good. Speedy Summon means it only needs 1 tribute rather than 2, but it loses 1000 attack and defense. Super Speed means it gets 50% further towards your opponent in a single turn, but if you have 2 of each of these skills, for example, you can actually give it Hyper Speed. You can actually set its second and third skill to Super Speed and Speedy Summon, which means that when it dies once, you'll be able to bring it back with 1 tribute, with its full attack, and it will go all the way down the lane to your opponent in a single turn. Very, very powerful, but you do need 3 copies of this card to really realize that power. So if you're someone who doesn't really care about early on in the game, you know you're going to be playing, you know you're going to be getting a bunch of cards, you know you want to aim for that, those like top decks or that top UR monster, then Elemental Heroes might be your monster of choice. So next thing, we're going to talk about extra gems. When you log in, you will get a login bonus for gems. And when you get into the game, that you will have missions, not just normal and daily. There should also be, I think, beginner missions for new players who are logged in. You will get all these different missions, not to mention the limited time event missions that are going on now. You want to just take a look at these missions, do these missions, get those easy gems where you can. Another thing you will be able to do, you'll probably be set as Yugi as your partner by default, but when you click on your portrait, you can actually come in here and change your partner. Partners take longer to level up the more you use them, so to maximize your gem gain, you want to really get your partner to level 10, switch to a new partner, get them to level 10. They should give you, I wonder if we can see it here, so they should give you gems at level 2, at level 6, and at level 9. So set your partner just like that. No matter what you're doing, you'll get experience for your partner, they'll level up, and they'll get you gems. Just a quick note on partner selection as well. If you're doing a tag duel, you will also need to select your partner here, as you can have a different partner for tag duel than you have for everything else in the game. Another good way to make gems is to go and do all of the extra tutorials. So if you hit the main menu button here at the top right, and then click on Challenge Duel, this will bring up all the tutorials that you have already completed, along with a lot more new ones that will earn you 50 gems per tutorial, and they take like 2 minutes to do. There's even 4-player match tutorials, raid tutorials. If you want to do these, they'll get you a lot of extra gems really quickly. And then the next thing to note when you first start, you will have the option to get free UR tickets, which is basically free chances at a random legendary. And to get these are really easy. You just complete the raid duel tutorial. In ranked matches, you rank up to silver level 2, which you start out at rookie. And as you can see, it doesn't take too much to get to silver level 2. And the final UR ticket is to complete all beginner missions, which should be up here, but I've already completed them, so they're not going to show. They're very quick, very easy to beat. Just complete all beginner missions. Might take you a couple days, but that will be another UR ticket. Right, now we're going to talk about card gacha. If you have just done everything I've just said, done all the beginner missions, got your login bonus, done all of the additional missions and everything, you may have enough gems to do 3 or 4 10 times draws with the card gacha here. Every pack is going to give you 1 trap, 1 monster, and 1 spell. Now, what you may want to do at this point is, not having spent too long at the game, you've come in, you've done your missions, you've gotten all the very early easy gems, you may want to open those like 30 packs, and if you don't think you've gotten like that good pulls, now is a time to reroll your account. Right, next we're going to be talking about building a deck. The actual this is the recommended deck for Blue Eyes here. Now, the actual recommended deck section is not too bad. I think it gives you a good idea of how many spells, how many traps, how many monsters you want to have in a particular deck. And as you can see here, the recommended deck editor has given me 2 traps and 3 spells. And I think really something like that is what you should be aiming for when building a deck. 5 spells and traps max. Although depending on what deck you're playing, there are cards that have the wizardry effect, which gain attack and defense if you play a spell card. So wizardry decks are probably going to have a slightly different composition of cards. But apart from that, you should be aiming to just look at your spells and traps and include your best 5 spells and traps here. And all of your choices at like really low ranks are pretty good. Reinforcements is a pretty good card. Compulsory Escape Device is a good card for, you know, very early on in these ranks here. Shield Handler is very good because a lot of people like to play Blue Eyes at the beginning. And in terms of spell cards, again, if you've got a lot of like light monsters or dark monsters, Sword of Dark Destruction, Elf's Light are good cards. Block Attack and Stop Defense I think is a card everyone starts with, and they're very good cards. You know, use the recommended deck editor to see kind of the kind of cards that you should go in the deck, and then make your own choices from that point, depending on whether you have the cards or not, and what you want to get out of this deck, how you feel your playstyle is, and yeah, that's really the most I can offer here. The only other thing I would say is try not to have, apart from your ace monster, try not to have any more than one other double tribute monster in. They can definitely clog up your hand. I think having another double tribute and perhaps having a single tribute, if you get one of those in, is pretty good. You don't really want too much more than that, unless you have in a lot of monsters with like the double sacrifice. Unless you have in a lot of monsters with like this skill, double material, which it can be treated as 2 tributes. Really depends how you build your deck, but really that's just the basics of deck building in Cross Duel. No more than 5 spells and traps combined. You want 15 monsters, and out of those 15 monsters, you really don't want any more than maybe 2 monsters that require like being tributed. At least start off with, see what your playstyle is, see what the meta becomes, or people at your level are playing, and just edit your deck as you see fit. Right, so what are tag duels? Tag duels is a single player mode in Cross Duel where you team up with your partner and you go against, in this case, you go against Yugi and Kaiba. In GX case, you go against Chaz and Jaden. All of these modes are going to offer you rewards. You can actually choose your tag partner and choose what deck your tag partner is going to play. As you can see in the bottom right here, you do have an energy counter, so you can only do this a certain number of times a day, but you can, if you have a good enough deck, you can set it on auto to play for you. Now, it is definitely worth setting this off and making this go, because it gets you 50 gems. It gets you the autoplay feature. It gets you speed up feature as you go through. It gets you max energy boost, amongst other like upgrade materials, gems, everything. So really, if you can, you want to leave this going. One of your daily missions does get you an energy canister to refresh one of your energies here. As well as that, if we click on one of them, as you can see down the bottom left here, my face is kind of covering it, but all the levels give you gems. Level 1 will give you 10, level 2 will give you 20, level 3 will give you 30, the first time you clear it. So what you want to do here is clear levels 1, 2, and 3 through all of the different Yu-Gi-Oh modes, and then just go back to your favorite one and just have a good set it on auto. Make sure it's a level your deck can complete. My deck is pretty decent at the moment, but even at level 3, the computer is a bit crap, and the chances of my deck on auto winning against a level 3 Yugi and Kaiba are not so great. So I set mine on level 2 on auto. Maybe once I get better cards and everything, I will make a tag deck and try and get that level 3 win more often, but keep this going. It'll get you a bunch of rewards, not just cumulatively, but also for your particular field that you're going for. You get more rewards here, and you also get character pieces, which level up your character, which will basically allow you to level up your characters higher than level 10. Right, next we have raid duels. So in the raid duel, you are going to be, at least this season, it'll change every season, you're going to be going against Ryzar the Storm Monarch. You can make your own specific raid deck here, which I will show you in a moment. And when you go to fight the raid boss, it has different levels. You'll start off at level 1. Every time you beat it, you'll be able to face the next level. And you can see down below as I change it, you can see the boss gets more attack, essentially more health. It will do more direct attack damage. And in the raid boss phase, it gets different conditions, different abilities that it can do, and it even gives you recommendations for like skills you want your monsters to have against the boss. as you can see here, it should tell you everything you need to know. Now, at easy level, you are going to be able to basically bring in any deck, and you should be able to beat this boss. As you get further into medium, you're going to start to see that you really do need to upgrade your monsters with raid abilities in order to complete runs of this boss. And when you get into hard, you better have a raid deck, or you are going to you may be responsible for your whole team wiping out against this raid boss. Now I'll show you the raid deck here. So as you can see, in the skill tree for these monsters, every monster has various raid abilities that you can equip. And now in raids, your monsters can use more than one of their abilities. So if you do have extra copies of a monster, you can use that to make more ability slots and set more raid abilities for your monster. I will be putting up 1 or 2 raid videos to go over some of the more basic good raid decks, and maybe then one of the more advanced raid decks that you can do. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be alerted when that video comes out, so you can see more about what makes a good raid duel deck and what you should do within the raids. And as you do raid, you will get points that again will give you gems, it will give you material to upgrade your monsters. As your raid grade levels up, you'll also be able to earn gems and other materials and everything like that. Right, so now we're going to be talking about the trade shop. So the trade shop is a shop that is going to allow you to trade extra copies of your cards for a card that you don't own already. As you can see down the bottom here, it is saying I have 14 copies, extra copies of a super rare, and I will need 4 of those if I want to basically purchase a super rare that I do not already own. Same with ultra rare. I have 9 ultra rares or spare copies of ultra rares. I can use 4 to trade for a card that I do not already own. So I can just click on that and do trade. I'm not actually going to at the moment, and I will kind of explain why. Because extra copies of monsters are used for more than just trading for cards of another rarity. For example, if I have an extra copy of Bloom Diva, which I don't, I can then use that to unlock its second skill. So, and even if I don't have an extra copy of Bloom Diva, I can actually go and spend 4 copies of another ultra rare card to essentially purchase one of these and unlock its skill. So the reason why I haven't spent those other copies of mine is I may want to use them to unlock the additional skills of ultra rares that I already have. I may want to, or I may want to, I may find that, oh hey, that ultra rare that I have a spare of is good. Same with super rares. I may I may want to use those extra copies to create more nodes, because your ultra rare doesn't need to be your ace monster. You can have your super rare as your ace monster, and if that's the case, then you can have free slots. So take Gaia for example. If I wanted to, I could put Gaia as my ace monster, and I believe I have a lot of copies of Gaia for some reason. But if I wanted to, I could go, oh hey, well, I'm going to have Gaia, and I'm going to use my extra copies to basically get him 2 more slots, rather than using them to purchase another card. So there's different things to consider. I would always recommend waiting, seeing what people are playing, what cards seem good as ace monsters, whether you want to use those to get those extra slots, or whether you want to use those to get other super rare cards that you don't already have. Now the other thing you can do with extra copies of your cards is to trade them for medals. Now for your monsters, if you are planning to do the raids, you may not want to do this for your monsters, because you need extra materials from your monsters so you can open more slots, add more raid abilities, and it does require 5 extra copies of a rare to get your second slot, 10 extra copies of a rare to get your third slot. Fortunately, with super rares and ultra rares, it's just 1 extra copy to get your second slot and your third slot. However, for spells and traps, there is almost no reason that I can see to keep them. So I can actually click on medal conversion mode here and go, okay, I'm going to go and convert, say, 6 copies of these into medals. I do convert, it's going to give me 6 medals because it's a normal. For spells and traps, you cannot upgrade them like you can do with monsters. There seems to be very little reason, unless you have a super rare or an ultra rare, There's no ultra rare spells. Unless you have a super rare spell, there seems to be very little reason not to convert it into medals. And once you have converted it into a medal, you can then go to the medal shop. And here, you can purchase material for upgrading your monsters. Now, some of the key ones to point out here are ultimate material, which if you are doing the raids, you need ultimate material to get your ultimate raid skill for your ultra rare monster. And master skill materia, which is what you need to unlock your basically your master skill for your ultra rare, which is only a skill an ace monster can use. And these resources seem pretty rare, and they are accessible monthly in the shop. There's also accessories, currently just the Exodia the Forbidden One card sleeve, which looks really cool, costs a lot of medals, and also energy recovery items and profile icons. Right, and finally, we come to linking your Konami account. If you have not already linked Cross Duel to your Konami account, and you want to do this so that you can play it on other devices and all your progress is carried over, when you're in the main menu like this, you click menu, you click data transfer, and you click transfer from an account linked to a Konami ID. At that point, it will ask you to log into your Konami account, and at that point, it is linked. Then, when you log on to Cross Duel on another device, before you even open it and go into the tutorial, click menu, go to your linked Konami account, put in your password, and it will automatically update that device with the one that you did originally, and you should have all of your progress ready to go. Right, that has been the new user guide for Cross Duel. Please let me know what you thought. Let me know if I missed anything down in the comments below. Follow the channel for more Cross Duel content. I hope to see you on the ladder, and I'll see you in the next one.